A guy walks into a talent agent's office and says, "Have I got an act for you?" The agent says, "Yeah, what sort of act?" And the guy says, "It's a political act. There's me, my running mate, our aides and media chums and their aides, and plus a few non-union extras who work for less than minimum wage. First, I walk out on stage with a baby seal. I start feeding the baby seal endangered fish that I pull from a 55-gallon drum labeled clean water. The fish have been soaked in mercury, polychlorinated biphenyls, and crude oil. While the baby seal oinks and pukes and turns green, my running mate starts clubbing it with a 6-foot crucifix. Our media chums narrate this whole thing, explaining how we're making the environment safer for fish and baby seals. Then my running mate starts stuffing illegal campaign contributions into the seal body's cavity while slicing off layers of fat and passing the fat to the audience, while our aides pass out press releases explaining that the baby seal fat is actually safer than it was before I fed it mercury and polychlorinated biphenyls. Next, one of the non-union extras drives a huge Humvee onto the stage. We've modified it so it gets half mile per gallon. It's belching out carbon monoxide and hydrocarbons like crazy. We've sealed all the ventilation ducts so the audience gets the full dose. This makes them lightheaded and more likely to find this entertaining. The Humvee has a banner on the side that says, "Blue Skies." We start singing Louis Armstrong's "What a Wonderful World" in blackface and pickaninny voices. Al Jolson would have been proud of this part. And then we truck in a bunch of crippled kids and tell them how compassionate we are, but then we rip up their Medicare checks, dump them out of their wheelchairs, and order them off stage. They drag their disfigured bodies from the stage while we call them a drain on society, and we sell their wheelchairs to GM for scrap metal. Now, while this is going on, one of our media chums is having phone sex with his aide, describing unspeakable acts involving a falafel and a loofah, and he's masturbating the whole time. We patch into the call using an illegal wiretap and broadcast it over the PA system in the theater and blame the mainstream liberal press for the repulsive content. And then a guy dressed as Jesus walks on stage and kicks a guy dressed as Muhammad in the crotch. Jesus tells the audience that they need to give all their money to him or go to hell. Then Jesus picks up the crucifix we used to club the baby seal and attaches strings to it. The strings are connected to the hands and feet of a woman in a persistent vegetative state. Jesus makes her dance around the stage like a marionette and preaches about the kingdom of heaven. And after that, Rush Limbaugh comes on stage and bloviates about the sanctity of marriage, the importance of personal responsibility, and how drug users should be locked up in prison. As he's delivering this monologue, we trot out an underage girl my running mate has knocked up the day before. We dangle a morning after pill just out of her reach and lecture her on sexual abstinence. All her jumping up and down causes her to spontaneously abort her one-day-old embryo. And then we carve Ronald Reagan's face onto a life-size mock-up of the Statue of Liberty. Meanwhile, one of my aides is cleaning an assault rifle, which accidentally goes off and blows the head off of the lady in the front row. He then gives a long-winded lecture on the Second Amendment, and again, personal responsibility. On a giant screen at the back of the stage, we play an endless loop of news coverage of a privileged white girl who went missing in Aruba. And while this is going on, I start firing missiles at the studio next door, saying that the act over there is against family values and God, and they have weapons of mass destruction aimed at our studio. And then I do a pantomime of looking for the weapons under sofas and behind the curtains, laughing my ass off. I never find the weapons, but I keep insisting that the other studio was a dire threat to our studio. And I explain how morally superior we are and how we're the only ones who really understand personal responsibility and Christian values and abstinence and the sanctity of marriage and the evils of drug abuse. Then we all dance and slide around in the baby seal blood and fat and the dead lady's blood and the PCBs and oil and the tears from the underage pregnant girl. Did I mention she's homeless? She's homeless. We're rubbing the blood and oil all over each other, slapping each other in the backs, congratulating ourselves on a job well done, and laughing at the homeless pregnant girl and waterboarding this guy dressed as Muhammad as he issues a fatwa against us in the entire audience. And then for the finale, we all join in a rousing chorus of Near My God to Thee. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking the audience will walk out in droves and demand refunds. But that's the beauty. My running mate and I have cooked the books so that even after you handled all the refunds, you still made more money than they originally paid. The audience has to pay for their tickets with their credit cards. We steal the credit card numbers and max them out to pay for the lavish party we throw after the show. Halliburton does the catering, so it costs about twice what it should. Now get this. We tape the whole show and broadcast it on Fox. Nobody watches it, but we paid Diebold to make the ratings counter so it will have the highest ratings in television history. The agent says, "Wow, that's a hell of an act. What do you call it?" And the guy says, The Republicans.